Hello, this is Professor Angelia with Works of Hearts, Child Development and Psychology class, Part 9. Last time, excuse me, we left off talking about the goals of misbehavior, because there's always a goal. And today we're going to start on emergence of scribbling, painting, and drawing. The child's ability to write and draw develops in the sequence shown here. Of course, as told here. The sequence is relatively fixed, but at the age at which each ability is first shown varies, because every kid is different. Children should be encouraged to draw, but it is wise to appreciate just where they are developmentally. And we got lucky. Our Aunt June, who wasn't our aunt at all, she was a lady who lived across the street from my grandma. Um, but Miss June, or Miss Edison, would bring us paper from her office where she worked. So we always had little canvases to draw on, and that's something that we really enjoyed. Okay, we're talking about the year and then the selected behaviors. At age 1, scribbling emerges. Repetitive in radial or circular patterns. And what I would do is when my older ones were at the table doing their homework and stuff, I would put, the little one in the high chair with a piece of paper and a crayon, and he could, do stuff too. And that's, how they learn. You do this with them, and that's how they learn. Age 2, multiple and single line crossings. Like they can, make a cross or start trying to kind of draw a square. Variety of scribbling patterns. Various positions on a page. So usually they just start at the middle, but then by this time they can do a thing in the middle and then move to the edges where they see they have room to do these things. Age 3. Simple cross may be drawn using 2 lines. Enclosed space, a variety of patterns emerge, and they're getting ready to be able to draw shapes. Figures placed in simple combinations using 2 figures. They can start drawing stick figures. Aggregates, more than 2 figures combined. This is when they can start trying to draw pictures of their family in a house and, things like that nature, like all the kids do. And we say, oh my gosh, that's so good. We hang it on the fridge. At age 4, suns are drawn with extra lines, the rays of the sun coming out of them, sometimes forming faces. I don't know if your kids watch Teletubbies, but the sun had a little face. Sometimes I like to put a little face in the sun. Human figures emerge, crudely drawn. Crude buildings and houses appear. Human figures contain more detail. Trunks usually absent. Stick arms, legs, and fingers. Boats and cars crudely drawn. Circles and squares may be drawn. At age 5, animals drawn. Trees appear in drawings. Refined buildings and houses. Better drawings of means of transportation, such as cars, airplanes, boats, and things like that. Age 6, triangles drawn reasonably well. Age 7, diamonds drawn, because that's a complicated shape. You have to get an angle and 4 lines, so that's probably one of the more complicated shapes for your child to draw. Age 8, there's no difference. Age 9, 3-dimensional geometrical figures are drawn. By this time, they can start trying to draw that 3-dimensional box that all art teachers kind of start you on. Age 10, no difference. Age 11, linear perspective in drawings. They can draw things closer or further away. And the source for that is from Craddy, 1979. Facts for families. Children do not always do what parents want. If you're a parent, you know that's true. When a child misbehaves, the parent must decide how to respond, because that's your job, is to respond. All children need rules and expectations to help them learn appropriate behavior. That's your job to teach it to them. If you don't, who's going to? Is the school? No, they're going to not bother with it. They're going to send them to the office and then call you. It's your job. How does a parent teach a child the rules, and when those rules are broken, what should parents do? A lot of people don't know. Parents should begin by talking to each other about how they want to handle discipline and establish the rules. Especially if you grew up in different types of houses. Like if your spouse is a spanker and you are not. You need to have that discussion as, what's going to happen. There needs to be an agreement by the parents, how discipline is going to happen. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting about it when it's time. And then the kid's going to feel worse because they feel like their misbehavior caused this fight between their parents because they internalize everything in anyway. So this needs to be decided, up front. It's important to view discipline as teaching, not punishment. And I say this to people all the time. And I can't say it enough. Discipline should be teaching your child how to be, how to behave. It shouldn't necessarily be punishment, because punishment can lead to abuse. And a lot of people say, oh, no, I don't. Well, okay, then you're lucky. Because it certainly can and does, if you just watch the news, escalate on a regular basis. Learning to follow the rules keeps a child safe and helps him or her learn the difference between right and wrong. And that's how children develop a conscience. They need to know the difference between right and wrong, what's okay, what's not okay. And I see too many children out there running around like wild things. They have no idea what's right and wrong. And, you say something to them and they just like, what? Like they can't believe you're saying something about something they're doing. No one's taught them right or wrong. And you can tell, it shows. Once rules have been established, parents should explain to the child that broken rules carry consequences. Because, when they're grown up, they break rules. They can lose their job or their spouse. They can go to jail if it's bad enough. They can go to hell if it's bad enough. For example, here are the rules. And you make the rules. You can sit down and have a list of rules. When you follow the rules, this will happen. And usually it could be a treat or allowance, and you can have good stars or happy faces stickers or something, to show that they've been good. If you break a rule, this is what will happen. And you can use tallies that look like sticks, or, maybe an unhappy face or something, so that they know and they start to see the more good things they do, the better the outcome for them. It's not just that you want them to be good, that you told them so. They start to see there's a benefit to being good. Parents and child should decide together what the rewards and consequences will be. You have to kind of watch this if you're dealing with siblings. If you haven't set one up and you're dealing with siblings, what happens if so-and-so breaks this rule? We kill him. I've heard that one. So you got to use common sense with them when making these rules. Parents should always acknowledge and offer positive reinforcement and support when their child follows the rules. Because, you're trying to train your children. I hate to compare training a dog and training a child, but it's the same thing. If you reward your child, they're going to get the idea that being good has its rewards. And certainly when they go out into society, being good has its rewards. You'll get further in your career path. You'll make more money. You'll get more accolades. You can have a better life. So certainly showing them that being good pays off is what you want to do. Parents must also follow through with an appropriate consequence when the child breaks a rule. Because, in society, they might not get caught for a while. I mean, as the Johnny Cash song says, you can run on for a long time, but eventually you're going to get caught. And then you're going to have to pay the price for that. I think it's McGruff that says, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. But that you got to teach them. Consistency and predictability are the cornerstones of discipline, and praise is the most powerful reinforcer of learning because they want to please you. You're their parent. They want to make you happy. They want you to look at them with pride in your eyes and say, you did a good job. They want that. They crave that love and affection. So that's a great way to teach them how to be how you want them to be. Children learn from experience. Having logical consequences for misbehavior helps them learn that they are accountable for their actions, because they should be. They shouldn't be allowed to just run wild and whatever they do is okay, it's fine, who cares? It's just a kid. That's a kid. No. You teach them how to be a decent person, and then they will grow up and be a decent person. It's amazing how that works. Without damaging their self-esteem, because their little self-esteem is so delicate. They're little kids, they're in this big world, all these grown-ups around them. Their self-esteem is so delicate. You got to be careful with them. If children are fighting over the television, computer, or a video game, turn it off until they can resolve the conflict. And you might have to step in and help them out till you figure out who's going to do what or what they're going to watch till it's resolved. If a child spills milk at the dinner table while fooling around, have the child clean it up. They spilled it. You didn't spill it. You shouldn't have to clean it up. They can get a paper towel or a towel, and they can clean it up. You can come behind them and, do the rest of the job or a better job. But they can do the first part of the job themselves because they're the one that made the mess, not you. It's not your punishment for your misbehavior. They should have to clean. A teenager who stays up too late may suffer the natural consequences of being tired the next day. So sometimes you don't have to punish them. The natural consequences will take care of that for you. Another type of consequence that can be effective is the suspension or delay of a privilege. If you were good all week, you get to pick, what we eat. If you're good all week, you get to pick a movie out. We used to take our kids to Blockbuster. So if they're good, they get to pick a movie. But it might be a special treat. A piece of candy, something. That motivates them. If a child breaks the rule about where they can go on their bike, take away the bike for a few days. We had some infractions of that nature, going places in the neighborhood you weren't supposed to go. So then we would have to ground them for, the next day, saying, well, because you did this today, you don't get to go out this day. That'll usually work. When a child does not do chores, he or she cannot do something special like spend the night with a friend or rent a videotape. We tried to do that. There were some problems, with consistent discipline when I was divorced from their father 8 years, and they would go back and forth between houses. That was a struggle. So some of you single parents can relate to that. There are different styles and approaches to parenting. Research shows that effective parents raise well-adjusted children who are more self-reliant. And that's the goal, is to get your child self-reliant. That child should have their own money, their own transportation, even if it's just knowing how to ride the bus, their own job. Eventually, they're going to need their own place to live because you're not going to live forever. They need to be self-reliant. Self-controlled. They shouldn't have to have people control them. They should be able to do that themselves. and positively curious than children raised by parents who are punitive, overly strict, authoritarian, or permissive. Effective parents operate on the belief that both the child and the parent have certain rights, and the needs of both are important. Because this is a little person. This is not your property. This is a little person who's going to grow up to be a big person. And since you have them, it's your job to instill beliefs and, morals and common decency into this little person. Because this little person, is a reflection of you. Children learn what they live. Effective parents don't need to use physical force to discipline the child, because you don't have to show them you're the boss. You are the boss. And if you can't do that through words or punishments, you feel like you got to get the hand out or a paddle out or whatever, then you're not an effective parent. But the more likely to set clear rules and explain why these rules are important. And again, because I said so doesn't cut it. You need to explain to them, because they're little scientists, their minds want to know these things, why this is important. And if you don't know the answer, there's Google. Look it up. Effective parents reason with their children and consider the youngsters' points of views, because the joke is children are born crazy because their brains aren't wired all the way yet. And so they can think some things that, are out there. And so you kind of have to explain to them how things are sometimes. Even though they may not agree with the child. And of course you're not if you know better and you know why this is important. You're not going to agree on that. That's why you need to explain it to them so they understand. Because I said so doesn't cut it. Can't say that enough. Tips for effective discipline. Trust your child to do the right thing within the limits of your child's age and stage of development. Trusting a 2-year-old to know the difference between what's right and wrong and letting them out there, that's crazy on your part. They don't. Make sure what you ask for is reasonable. Children are not adults. So if you expect them to exhibit adult-like behavior or have adult-like knowledge, that's your mistake. Speak to your child as you would want to be spoken to if someone were reprimanding you. That's the golden rule. Treat others like you'd want to be treated. And that goes for your kids too. Don't resort to name-calling, yelling, or disrespect. Everyone wants to be respected, even children. If you want them to respect you, you need to respect them. It's a two-way street. Be clear about what you mean. Be firm and specific. So, like I said, you're going to have to explain yourself sometimes. Fact of life. Get used to it. Model positive behavior. If you're throwing a fit and acting like a fool, what's going to stop them from throwing a fit and acting like a fool? Be the adult. You are the adult. Be the adult. Do as I say, not as I do, seldom works. And, I've heard people say that before. And it just disgusts me, because it's like children learn what they live. They're seeing it. They're going to model it. Fact of life. Allow for negotiation and flexibility. And there's another saying, it's like, is it so important how things get done as long as they get done? They might not do things the way you do things, but if they do it right and it gets done, then you don't have to argue about that. Which can help build your child's social skills. And we all want our kids to be social. We don't want them to be, hiding out, somewhere in their house or whatever. Let your child experience the consequences of his behavior, because sometimes stuff will take care of itself. If you said something to a child repeatedly and they still want to do this, and something's going to happen, of course you're going to want to keep your child safe. But like as in the case of, someone sneaking, watching videos on their phone, or watching videos, under the cover with the TV turned all the way down or whatever, they're going to pay for that because they're going to be tired the next day and they're not going to be able to function. So, they're going to be cranky and they're going to pay for that one themselves. Sometimes you just have to let consequences roll out. Whenever possible, consequences should be delivered immediately. You can't let stuff slide because then that shows that you're not consistent. You need to take care of things right then. You can, excuse me, the consequence should relate to the rule broken. It shouldn't just be snatch and whap, because all that shows is you're bigger than them and you can hurt them. You need to have logical consequences. And be short enough in duration that you can move on again to emphasize the positives. Because it don't take, 5 seconds to deal with something and then go back to whatever it was you were doing. And I think that irritates a lot of parents. They think like it's going to take a lot of time. I got to stop whatever I'm doing and deal with this situation. And it frustrates them because they don't realize this is part of life. You stop, you take care of business, and then when it's taken care of, you move back on to whatever it was you were doing. If you're a parent, that's the facts of life. You had kids. Consequences should be fair and appropriate to the situation and the child's age. I mean, if they accidentally broke something, then I don't feel like it's a fair consequence to say, all right, I'm taking your birthday money or allowance or whatever for the next 5 years because, you broke this dollar thing. That's a little above and beyond. The consequences should make sense, logical consequences. Parenting classes and coaching can be helpful in learning to be an effective parent. And that's why I'm doing this here. That's why I ran, Works of Art classes and coaching for 14 years. Or let's see. Oh yeah, 15 years. Is to teach people this. And your local community center probably has classes like that you can look for and take. If parents have serious concerns about continuing problems with their child's behavior, consultation with a child and adolescent psychiatrist or other qualified mental health professional may be helpful. And I know some of y'all watch Super Nanny, and I used to do a parenting skills program, a life coaching program where I go out and observe and, help the people out for 8 weeks. And that's a good thing if you can, find that. And the psychiatrist is not always the answer, but, you could go to a psychologist and see if, there's a need for that. And for additional information, you can go to Your Child, 1988-98 by Harper and Collins. Your Adolescent, 1999 by Harper and Collins. And Facts for the Families. The American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, AACAP, represents over 6,900 child and adolescent psychiatrists who are physicians with at least 5 years of additional training beyond medical school in general adult and child and adolescent psychiatry. So they do know their stuff if you need to go to one. The Facts for Families series is developed and distributed by the American Academy of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, again, AACAP. Fact sheets may be reproduced for personal or educational use, and that's what I'm doing, without written permission, but cannot be included in material presented for sale. To order a complete set of loose-leaf black and white Facts for Families for $25, or to order a spiral-bound edition of the series for $35, contact AACAPS's Nelson Tejada at 202-966-7300, extension 131, or 1-800-333-7636, extension 131. Free distribution of individual Facts for the Family sheets is a public service of the AACAP Special Friends of Children Fund. Please make a tax-deductible contribution to the AACAP Special Friends of Children Fund and support this important public outreach. AACAP Special Friends of Children Fund, P.O. Box 96106, Washington, D.C., 290. And of course, that's if you would like to donate to them to help out, to get people, aware of this thing. I became aware, and this is something I teach. So this is a good thing these people are doing, providing other providers with this information. Incidents of pride and shame as a function of task difficulty. Shame and pride expression by condition. Mean number of pride and shame codes. And then the task difficulty. If a task is easy, the pride in it is actually kind of low at 1. But if the task is difficult, the pride in it goes up, and the scale only ends at 2.5. So it goes up to about 2.2. So the harder a task is for a child, the more pride they take in accomplishing it. And now, shame. If a task is easy and they can't do it, the shame level goes at 1.5 because they feel like it's an easy task. I should be able to do this, so they're ashamed that they can't. But if it's a hard task, the shame level goes down to about 0.25 because it's hard and they know it's hard, so they don't feel so bad about not being able to accomplish the task. Teaching children to resolve conflict. Joyce Fitro, Extension Agent, Family and Consumer Sciences, Delaware County. Many parents feel discouraged when their children bicker or resist requests made of them. How do we teach children to cooperate and resolve conflict? And a lot of parents want to know this. If we want children to stop fighting, we must teach them new skills for resolving conflict. They need to learn problem-solving skills and develop avenues for generating lots of alternatives for getting what they want in socially acceptable ways, because we do live in a society. We also want them to become independent and accountable. It has been found that a child's ability to get what he or she wants in an acceptable manner is directly related to the number of solutions or alternatives the child can think of in a situation. A child who can think of 5 ways to get what he wants will generally display more socially acceptable behavior than a child who can only think of 1 or 2 ways. Here are some general steps in teaching problem-solving skills to children, and some adults might need to listen to this one. Get the facts and feelings. When children are upset, fighting, angry, or hurt, first, find out the details. With questions like, what happened? Or ask calmly and non-judgmentally, children usually calm down and answer them. They want to talk to you, but not if you're, looking down on, see, I told you, now it's a problem. Yeah, no, that's not going to do any good. Spend some time focusing on feelings. Children see things primarily from their own perspective, because remember, we start in our selfishness, and then we come out into the world. They may be completely unaware of how their behavior affects other people, and young children are. They don't feel like anything they do affects other people. It's all about them. Except when another person interferes with their needs, and this is why you have fights in preschool. To negotiate solutions that are fair to everyone. Children need to know how others feel. And that's something that you can teach them that will help them throughout their whole life, is that other people have feelings, and you have to take other people into consideration when you make decisions as well. Help children see the goal. Generating ideas for solutions is much easier for children when they have a clear goal. And that goes for everybody. Help children define the problem in terms of what both children want to happen. For example, what can you do so that you have room to play with your blocks and Casey has room to drive his truck? When the problem is phrased this way, children get the idea that the needs of both are important. Generate alternatives. To help children resolve conflict, adults can help them stay focused on the problem. Adults can also act like a blackboard When children suggest alternatives, adults can repeat the ideas, then ask them what else could be done. Resist the temptation to suggest ideas, as most children might assume their own thoughts are not good enough. Back to that self-esteem thing. If a child needs new ideas, suggest them later or ask the child to imagine how someone else they know might handle the situation. Evaluate consequences. After the children have generated all the ideas they can, evaluate the consequences. Ask them, what might happen if you did this? Or, how might Matt feel if you did that to him? So they need to learn empathy. They don't have any yet. We come out from center. And you need to learn that other people are important and you need to have empathy for them. That's something that you have to teach them. Ask for a decision. When the children have completed thinking of and evaluating ideas, the remaining task is to make a plan. Restate the problem, summarize the ideas, and let the children decide which they will try. If they choose an alternative you think will not work, be sure they know what they should do next. The process of teaching problem solving often seems tedious, and parents may be tempted to just tell a child what to do. But you got to teach them how to think for themselves, because you're not going to be around forever and they need to learn how to think for themselves. But that does not allow children to gain the experience of thinking what to do for themselves. And again, this source is from Elizabeth Creary, 1984, Kids Can Cooperate, Parenting Press. For more information, visit the Human Development and Family Life website at www.hec.ohio.edu/famlife. And there you go. All educational programs conducted by Ohio State University Extension are available to clientele on a non-discriminatory basis without regard to race, color, creed, religion, sexual orientation, national origin, gender, age, disability, or Vietnam-era veteran status. And I've had people kind of say, oh, well, you got this information. This information is only supposed to be for whoever. No, most of the information I got is public information on public websites that I either joined or, subscribed to at one point. I was paying for subscriptions as a student. So, I have the right to have this material. You have the right to have this material. It's public, knowledge. We're educating people. So I'm not like stealing anybody's information. It's all here. They're getting credit, And if I share a picture somebody else shared on social media, it's because it's out there in the public, eye, or, quoted something and then I put a dash and quote. It's because it's in the public eye, Keith L. Smith, Associate Vice President for Ag Admin and Director, OSU Extension. Okay, so that's where that came from. And that is going to be it for today. Our little bell went off. So I hope you found this educational, inspirational, or just entertaining. And I'll leave the link so that you can give a gift to help me to continue these classes, to help people that might need it. So that's it for now. Until next time.